Okay, now
If you're ready, I'm ready.
let's do this. It's now or never, friend.
Yes.
It's now or never.
Right.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Oh my gosh. I think that's just how I'm going to do it. Welcome. This is going to be it.
This is it.
This is so funny. Everybody, thank you for being here on the Healthy Project podcast. I'm your host, Corey Dion Lewis. I have a great person with me today. Man, if y'all would have seen what just heard, that's so awesome. Health and wellness expert, small business owner, advocate for women's health, all of the things. She goes by Medi. I'm not going to try to pronounce your first name, so you can do everything. But
Sure.
Medi, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the very warm welcome. That is very kind of you. I appreciate it very much.
No problem.
I don't know if I'm an expert, but I definitely am a continued learner and student. So
that's good. You know more than me.
Yeah. That's fair. I'm an expert in some things.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll be watching your Instagram posts and be like, man, if I
man.
was a woman, I would really get a benefit from this.
But here's the thing: you as a man can benefit from this, right? So I would argue with that you as a man
Okay.
can benefit from this because you are married, correct?
I am.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and your partner is a woman, right?
Correct.
Okay, and she's had children.
Yes.
Correct. And she is vintaging. I don't like calling it
Vintaging.
aging.
Ooh, I like that.
I like to say that my ladies are vintaging. I'm vintaging. Like fine
Vintaging.
wine. So you all can have that out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that there's something to be said, and that you can learn from the information that I'm sharing to help your partner along.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
A little vintaging.
absolutely.
But you're also bringing that knowledge to this year's My City, My Health
Yeah.
Des Moines
Yes.
conference.
I'm very excited about that.
And the reason why I think that's so important is because, for those that are just listening, you're a Latino business owner.
Yes.
And that's the
Yes.
community that you represent. So that's super important to me for the population that we're trying to serve. And you're one of the first, I think, or the only Latino owner of a health and wellness company at one point. Or were there others?
Yeah, there are others out there. I know for a fact that there are others out there, but I don't know.
Well, in Des Moines.
In Des Moines, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's debatable. I know that there are other small business, female, Latino, small business owners that are in fitness out there, and some of them are younger than me, and they're just really getting their start. And
Right.
so yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can say if I'm the first,
Right.
But I'm one of the few.
You're
How
one of
about
the
that?
few.
Yeah,
You're one of the
I'm
few.
one of the few.
Right.
So, but there is an army building for sure.
That's cool. Well, how does
Yeah.
that feel to be kind of one of the, the few to represent? Because I feel like for those, when you're like the first or the few, it almost feels like everything's on your back for that whole community.
Yeah.
How does
Yes.
that feel? How do you take that?
It's a really great question. I really take it to heart. I take it as an honor, but I take it with, it's really, really important to be one of the representatives of a space that, in the fitness industry, there are not a lot, at least I have not seen a lot of, Latinas or people of color in the fitness industry in that space. And we're starting to see more of it now. I know that I curate a lot of my social media so that I do see more of that, which I get very excited about. But I believe it's a really incredible responsibility that I'm taking on for my community, because I want them to understand and to see that there is opportunity out there, and that fitness and wellness is accessible to everybody. It can be accessible to everybody. I know for a period of time, fitness is almost kind of considered like a luxury. It's only for those that can really afford it. And I completely disagree with that. I mean, my culture is a people of hardworking individuals who are very, very active. I mean,
Right.
I can think back to if I think back to like my grandmother and her telling me stories about my great grandmother and my great grandfather. I mean, they were migrant workers. That's physical activity.
Man.
You know, they were constantly moving and doing things in manual labor. And I think about, you know, my uncles and all my aunts. Like, I don't ever recall in my youth any of the women in my family or the men in my family just sitting and being stagnant. And even to this day, like my parents, like my dad, I joke a lot with him because like he's retired 7 times over. So he retired from the military, and then, you know, I'm retired, and then he, you know, got bored and became a bus driver. And so then he was a bus driver for a period of time. Then he did something else. And then,
Wow.
and my mom, even the same way, like my mother retired from the judicial system here in Iowa. And now she is working as president of the labor union. And so they're never stagnant, you know, they're always constantly doing something. And I think that that's important, and that's a way of life. And at least in, you know, the Latino and Hispanic culture, is that we're constantly moving. And so
Right.
fitness is just a small piece and an aspect that can be, that, you know, can be utilized for them. And they, I think they'd be very open to.
Yeah, I know. I think, and it's all marketing, but I feel
Right.
like there was like everybody that I even see too, like when you say exercise, they immediately start to think, oh, I can't afford a gym membership.
Right.
And it's like, well, exercise doesn't need to be
In a gym.
in a gym.
Right.
Exercise doesn't need to be all these things that are going on in your head. They're great tools.
Yeah.
That's how I like to see going to the gym is,
Yeah.
is a tool. But I think, especially with people that I serve at Broad Lawns or even in my community, even my own parents, and it's like, you should exercise more. Well, I can't afford the gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can do
Go for a walk.
You can go for a walk.
Yeah. I think that is a really good point, is that people have this kind of misconception that in order to exercise or to be fit, you have to be in a specific location. It's very similar to like people who worship, right? So when you have your faith, you know, a lot of people think that the only way that you can worship is to be in a place of worship. And I disagree with that. I believe that you can have your faith and worship wherever you see
Right.
fit, you know, whether that's in the privacy of your home, your backyard, on a bus, you know.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with fitness. You can, you know, exercise or move anywhere, you know, in any place and time. I joke with a lot of my clients that there's a movement that I utilize a lot called the burpee, and it's an you
You don't have a faith. You're, you're the devil.
in disguise. But it's funny because most everybody knows, if anybody out there, they know that the burpee might not be your favorite movement. I happen to love it. I'm also very short, you know. I'm 4'11", everyone.
It's
Okay,
an
so
easier movement for
it's
you.
it's an easier movement for me. I'm compact, but it is also a great exercise tool because you can take that anywhere and everywhere.
You do that at home.
You can do that at home, just like going walking or running. You know, those are, you know, walking is very underutilized or even underestimated at the benefits of walking.
I know.
Right? And especially walking outside on beautiful days like today.
like
I mean, it's
today
a
is
beautiful
gorgeous.
fall day. So I would encourage people to get outside and get in the sun and go for a walk. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that there's just that misconception of, you know, well, you have to be in a particular space and do things at a particular time in order to exercise. And that's
Right.
not the case at all. COVID taught us that too. I mean,
Absolutely.
I saw so many people buying gym equipment, getting bikes and investing. And it was interesting because it was almost very eye-opening. And people started to realize almost how vulnerable we really were to, and really are, I should say, to a virus, which caused obviously a pandemic and a worldwide shutdown. And for a moment there, you know, our health
Yeah.
and our fitness for a very tiny moment was prioritized.
Yes. and it was, and people who probably have never thought about exercise ever
Yeah.
were like, "Yo, I'm,
I got to do something.
I gotta do something. I gotta do something." What started your journey into health and wellness?
Oh man. So I was never really serious about fitness until I got into my 20s. So, I mean, I in high school I played sports. I did soccer and volleyball, and that was the thing to do. For a short stint, I had a very short stint of doing cross country. Very short stint. and and yeah, it wasn't until my 20s I actually my first kind of encounter with any type of physical activity since high school was running. And I had a very good friend of mine that we worked in the service industry together, and he was an avid runner, and so he turned me on to it, and we kind of started this small group within our service industry mates. And, we all started running together, and we did these road races, and we did 5Ks. And then I did a half marathon in Arizona as a goal shortly after I had my son.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and we flew to Arizona, and I did this 5K, and it was great. And that was my first real introduction to finding something in fitness that I enjoyed. I would have never thought in a million years I would have enjoyed running, of all things. Right. But then doing the act of it was incredibly freeing, and it just really allowed me to kind of let my thoughts, ebb and flow, and think about my breathing and being outside and in the elements even at times. And so that was where I got my start. And then I decided I kind of wanted to do more, and I wanted to play with the idea of kind of changing my composition. So I got more curious about fitness. So then I started to kind of dabble in like dumbbells and doing some weightlifting and working on machines, and then got into TRX, and then invested in a personal trainer who then introduced me to more activities and movements. And then it was, my personal trainer, who we became really good friends, introduced me to CrossFit. And then that's when it kind of it just was a snowball effect from there. And
right.
And the reason why it was because he showed me this video of these women that were doing things that I never in my mind thought or imagined we could do as a woman. They were climbing ropes. They were, doing Olympic weightlifting. They were clean and jerking,
right.
and snatches, and, and just doing all these really awesome things. And they were badass.
Right.
And it just flooded my senses. And I'm like, I want to do that. And I was like, I want to look like they, I had this, I want to look like them. They had muscles, and they were fit, and they looked healthy. And so it just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah.
And so then I went in and started doing CrossFit, dabbled in it a little bit. And then my friend, who then he had a CrossFit gym at the time, he told me, he was like, you'd make a really good coach. And I kind of laughed about it at first, because I was just like, I can barely do an overhead squat, with 45 pounds over my head. And I'm so new to this. I can't do that. And he said something to me that, to this day, I hold, really close to my heart, is he was like, you don't have to be really good at everything. He goes, you just have to be inspiring. And he goes, and you have that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get a little, I know, I get still, it still kind of shakes me.
Yeah.
And so he planted a seed, and I have to give him credit for that. He planted a seed that, from there, I kind of watered it and just took off.
Yeah.
And so I then became a coach.
Right.
And started, teaching and training and coaching classes, and then it started to turn into more than just, I'm just coaching people and teaching them how, how to move, efficiently and be safe, and teaching them the benefits of fitness. But then it started to be the relationship building. And I started to connect with people, and people were connecting with me, and a lot of it was women, where, I was connecting with these women who never thought possible that they could deadlift, 200 pounds, that they could
Right.
do a pull-up, that they could, climb ropes. I mean, one of my favorite and most inspiring stories is a mother of 5 that I worked with. She was one of my very, very first clients, and her teenage son were members of the gym that I coached at. And to see that bond between them grow in fitness was absolutely incredible.
Wow.
And she was one of the strongest women in the gym. And let me just clarify that she did not look like an athlete, like society has,
right.
has put out there that we need to look a certain way in fitness. No, she had curves and she was voluptuous, but she was strong as shit. And
Right.
it was incredibly inspiring. And
That's so cool. That's one of the
yeah.
things that I love about CrossFit, and it's the community that you build around. Like this, that's so cool to me.
Yeah.
That people will go and I have a few friends that do CrossFit.
Yeah.
I don't even know where they do it at, but they do it. But they're always posting pictures about
Yeah.
activities that not even in the gym, but they're doing together.
Out together, yeah.
With the members that they rock with. I think that's just so.
Yeah.
I think that's so fun.
It is. It's really cool. It's something that I've never really experienced before. Like, I think about it and I go, where is it that you can go someplace and you can have people of entirely different backgrounds, beliefs, genders come together and unite through suffering,
Right.
in a through physical fitness. I mean, and that's the truth, is like we have this motto where we say we suffer together and we die together and we get stronger together. And that's really what happens, is because you're not alone. There's comfort in knowing that when I'm over here doing this workout and you're next to me and you're doing the same workout, and we might be doing it in different ways. The stimulus might be different, but we're both suffering together.
Yes.
There's power in
There's
that.
struggle in both our
and
faces.
There's struggle on both our faces. We look at each other and we're like, is it over yet? But there's that unity that, that happens where it's like, man, good job,
Yeah.
And so there's something to be said about that,
I
which
know.
is bizarre.
That's so cool. So I know you I kind of want to shift a little bit
Yeah.
and talk about your passion for women and women's health.
Yes.
Like I said prior, that you corrected me that, if I was a woman, I would get a lot of benefit, but now I'm going to get benefit as a man. Right? So, just recently off the top of my head, I know you were talking about perimenopause.
Yes.
And
I'm living in that
you're
neighborhood right
living in
now.
it. For those listening or even watching,
Yes.
what does that mean, and what can people or women who are going through that right now? What are some tips and tricks? What can they do?
Oh man, so perimenopause is like the initial stages of menopause, and research has shown that perimenopause can happen anywhere between our mid 30s to our 40s and late 40s and so on. It can even happen well into 50s, and that's the thing that I'm finding. When I talk to people about it, they're kind of shocked, because they're shocked that when I talk about perimenopause or menopause, they're telling me, "Oh, you're too young for that." And I even have clients that they've said that they've been told by other, women, "You're too young to be going through perimenopause." And it's like, "No, actually, we're right on time." And it's different for everybody, and menopause is different for everyone.
Right.
I have a very dear friend of mine that, she is in her mid 50s, and she has not experienced she has not had any experiences of perimenopause or menopause. And so it's fascinating. Like, women are not I can't think of the word now. Anomalies. There we go. Wow.
We got it.
There we go. We got it. We're not anomalies, but yet there is so little known about us, physiologically, and a lot of the research and a lot of the studying is still very new, and it's still very young, and it's something that as I've vintaged and gotten older, I've really started to take deep dives into researching it and reading studies about it, and trying to find my own way to navigate through this and then share it. And so, yes, I recently found out and was diagnosed that I am going through perimenopause. I had a physical done earlier this year in the summer, and my doctor and we were chatting, and I was telling her like my cycle, and I was tracking everything, and she's just like, oh my gosh, like your cycle is getting closer together. And I'm like, yeah, this is really weird, like every 3 weeks. And she's like, I think you're experiencing perimenopause. And most people believe that, menopause is when a woman's cycle or their period gets further and further apart. Well, actually, it can be on the other end of the spectrum too,
Really?
where they can get closer and closer together. And so that is where I live right now. And I experience symptoms that are, at one time I thought were troubling or problematic. And now, as I've done more research and just kind of leaned in, I'm realizing, oh no, this is just part of the journey. And I think that it's incredibly important for women and for even just men and the general public to understand these things, because these symptoms and these things are happening to us, but we're not going crazy. And our society a lot of times has put that on us, that like, oh, this is just part of getting old, just deal with it. Or, oh, you're being unreasonable. And it's like, no, these are,
Right.
This is not, we're not going crazy. We're not being unreasonable. These things are happening to us, and we need to talk about them and be able to navigate them and navigate that space. And so, for me, it's just incredibly important to share that stuff. I've become more open with my husband about this, and he has told me, he's like, he goes, at first I like didn't like hearing about it, and I was like not, and he's just kind of like, and he's still like, he's not like fully like, okay, I'm totally comfortable, but he has said that he's appreciated me sharing, because now he doesn't wonder if it's him.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah. And so there's moments like when I'm going through my cycle that I'm in a bad mood. I'm just moody. And, like things kind of will maybe set me off, and I just don't feel the best, or I don't feel like my best self. I feel unattractive, and he's trying to maybe cuddle me, and I'm just like, I don't,
Yeah, leave me alone.
and it's now put his mind at ease that it's not him. I'm going through this particular symptom right now, and in a couple of days, I'm going to, go back to normal again. I'm going to even out. And so I think it's kind of brought us closer together,
Right.
and
Yeah.
made things a little bit easier to talk about and stuff. And so, and so I've appreciated his patience with that, and his resisted open-mindedness. Sorry, babe, I love you. But yeah, and so yeah, but oh man, I have all kinds of tips and tricks.
Yeah, because the reason why I asked, because you
Yeah.
talk about, I just off the top of my head, I remember you shared that your sleep was off, so you woke up early. You're doing stuff.
Insomnia.
Yeah,
She's
but
delightful.
But like, so you have insomnia, or
Yes.
you just said there may be days where, hey, I'm not with it today. You say the wrong thing, it might be bad for you.
Right,
But you
right.
still got to work.
We still have to work
You
through
still
it.
got to
Yeah.
get up. You still got to
Yeah.
go to, you still
Yeah.
got to see your clients. You still got to be a person.
Right. Yeah. I still have to be
Right?
human,
You still
right?
gotta
I
be
still have to interact
human.
with the world.
Right.
I have days where I don't want to.
You have right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are those days like, and how do you push through?
Oh man, that's a great question. So for example, we'll talk about the insomnia one, because that was actually just recent. That was
Yeah.
this week. That was earlier this week, actually. And so for me, and I'm just speaking from my perspective, and again, I just want to, preface and disclose that every woman is different. So every experience is going to be different in their journey. But for me, as of recently, before I get ready to start my period or whatever, I go through several days of PMS symptoms. One of them happens to be insomnia. And so I end up having 2 to 3 days where I just don't sleep well. I have one day where it's pretty aggressive, where I will get up at 10, 11, 1, and I'm up for the next like 4 hours or 3 hours. And when this first started happening, I was getting really agitated by it, because I have clients in the morning. Like I have my day starts at like 4:40 in the morning, and I see my first client sometimes at 5:15. So I have to be on my game
Yeah.
because, that's early in the morning.
Yeah.
And
they're expecting you to be
they're
the coach,
expecting me to be
motivator,
on
your
point. Right. And so yeah, so I would get just so aggravated and frustrated, and I'd toss and turn in my bed, and finally I just was like, this isn't working. Like, forcing myself to go to sleep is not working. Getting on my phone and doom scrolling is not helping. Like, it's raising my cortisol levels. Like, let's not do that. The whole
Right.
point is to lower the cortisol levels and, and raise your serotonin levels and try, and so I finally was just like, you know what? I'm just going to get up and be productive. But not in the sense of doing things that were incredibly mentally taxing, right? I didn't want to do things that were going to wake me up, right? So I don't turn on the TV. I don't turn on my computer. I don't reach for my phone and scroll. I don't answer emails. I do things that require little to no brain work, where I can just kind of because what I'm trying to do is exert the energy that my body needs to get rid of. So, for example, I unloaded the dishwasher and loaded the dishwasher. I cleaned up my kitchen a little bit. I picked up around the house. I then read a book, and I took time and read my book, an actual physical book, not a book on my phone. And I kept the lighting really low. And I kept really soft lighting, because all of these things can trigger your brain, right? And they can mess with your circadian rhythm, and, I can go down an entire rabbit hole. But I kept things very calm and mellow. I didn't turn on any music. I didn't have any other distraction. So it was just me, my thoughts, and me just doing things. And it helped. It helped alleviate, for me at least, it helped alleviate some of that physical energy that my body felt the need to get rid of at 2:00 in the morning. So be it. And so I mean, I was up for a good 3 hours, and then finally got sleepy enough that I went to sleep for an hour, and then I had to get up and start my day. Now, going through my day was, the first part of my day was fine, but then as the day progressed, then I started to get a little bit more tired than I normally would. But I kept myself moving. I didn't, and for me, I have the ability and the luxury and the privilege to kind of design my day, and where I know that most people may not have that. So I kept everything very light for my end, where I happen to not have to see clients so early in the morning. And so for me, that particular day was very dedicated to doing administrative work on my computer. I didn't have to have as much interaction with people day to day. And so, but I have been in those situations where I have had to see clients, and I have had to interact and have meetings and so on and so forth. And so I always preface with people, and I don't use it as an excuse. I just say, I'm just like, hey guys, just letting you know, I just had, I had a little bit of a rough night, had some insomnia.
Right.
I may not be my best self, but it's not you. This is just the current state I'm in. So I'm going to work with what I have. So, and people I find are really respectful of that, as opposed to just trying to fake it and muscle through.
Right. Well, and they know you, so they're like, well, if she's tired, I get that. And
right.
they're not gonna Nettie was not
right. Yeah, she sucks today.
Right. Dang, why'd I get up this
morning?
Right. Yeah. So I know, again, you have this passion for helping women. What can they expect with working with you? What does that look like?
Yeah. So the clients that I work with, it's.
And are you online, or are you local?
So I do both in person and online.
Okay.
I do both in person and online coaching. And I would say that my approach has been very just one of compassion. I really, really, my goal for my clients, especially for the women that I work with, is that one day they don't need me. That is really the ultimate goal. And I just what I plan to do, or what I hope to do, is just to educate them and give them the tools that they can then use to move forward in their fitness and their strength training, and even going through like the stages of life that they might be going through. And so for me, I coach with a lot of compassion. I have a very open dialogue with my clients, because I think it's important, as a fitness coach for myself, and I can only speak for me. I can't really speak for anybody else, but I really believe it's a responsibility as a fitness coach that I'm looking at the whole person, right? I'm seeing them as and everything that's going on with them. And so I really believe in a strong network. I believe in network building. I don't have the answers to everything.
Right.
And so I stay in my scope of practice. And if I have clients that are asking me questions that are outside of my scope of practice and my discipline, then I refer out, or I find them those resources.
Right.
Because I think that that's truly really important. I don't believe in harboring or trying to keep my clients from, learning and being advocates for themselves. I really do believe in educating and empowering them. And so I would say that, yeah, my approach is very much of a place of empowerment and compassion and understanding, and just, I want to see them achieve whatever goals it is that they want to achieve.
Right.
It's not about me, it's about them.
No, that's so real. No, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah.
So back to My City, My Health. So you're on the
Yes.
prevention panel.
Yes.
And what's so interesting about that panel, and I was just thinking about this the other day. So we have a pharmacist. We have, do you know Keisha Ward?
Oh gosh, her name sounds very familiar.
So-
I'm very good with faces. I'm so sorry, Keisha.
No,
It's like I'm very good with faces. I'm
she's
terrible with things.
she's not a personal trainer or even in the health and wellness industry, but she
Yeah.
has she's a vegan, and she a vegan. She's real veganese.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I've heard of her.
So
Okay,
she's-
I don't think I've had the privilege of meeting her.
She
but-
was on my podcast months ago.
Okay.
She's talking about her whole journey through veganism
Yes.
and why she switched. And then we have an oncology doctor on there. And we
okay.
have a personal trainer, or a health and wellness expert on there.
Yeah.
And what I think so really, I was thinking about that. I'm like, wow, those are wholly different people.
That's
people.
great. That's a
But
wonderful variety.
What's so cool about it? Exactly.
Yeah.
And what's so cool about it, and I would love to get your input on this.
Okay.
Because I know when I asked you to be on, and you were like,
I did. It took my breath away. I'm gonna be honest. I was like, huh? You want me to do what? Believe it or not, I was like, oh, this is incredibly uncomfortable. Sweating.
but the reason why is because we need to be, yes, prevention is, making sure you have the right medications. I understand
Yes.
that. Yes, there are some things that having an oncology doctor there are some things that they need to know. Everybody on this panel,
Yeah.
they're there for a reason. But I want to get back to the OG prevention, exercise for our community.
Yeah.
Right? That's not necessarily talked about a lot, and especially in our communities of color.
Yeah.
And I think you bring a great perspective, not only of being just a great coach in what you do, but you're someone of color, and people will. It's one thing for somebody to be like, exercise is good.
Right.
It's another thing when that person looks like you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So no pressure. But
Wow. None at all. Got this in the bag. Yeah.
yes, but and I know when we spoke a couple months ago,
Oh yeah.
talking about letting people of color understand, hey, exercise is more than just aesthetics. It's really about our health.
Right.
Right. So for those people in attendance that work with our community, that's who they are. The attendees are people who work in the community and do that.
Yeah.
What are some things that you would like for them to understand about prevention and what it will take to gain that trust so people can really look at that?
Oh man. I think that, one of the things that I'd really like people to understand is that I would like to break this belief that fitness is a luxury and it's not meant for them. I would really, really like to break that belief that, it's only for people with money. It's only for, it's only for professional athletes.
Right.
Because I think that that's really important. I know that fitness, at least in my opinion, it's very generational. I know, like, I talk to, like, I look at my grandmother who's 94 years old, and, and she's a very small woman. And I think about how her mind is so still very in tune with everything, but I watch, like, her body is not where her mind is in the capacity of, like, strength, so to speak. And I really, really want people to understand that you can, like, how important it is just to build strength. And I'm not talking like you don't need to go to the gym and, like, lift hundreds of pounds. It doesn't always have to be with a barbell or with a dumbbell. I mean, it can be through the simplest things of, like, carrying your groceries.
Yeah.
Carrying milk jugs, walking up and down the stairs, carrying a backpack. We look at our kids and, how they're carrying their backpacks with them, and sometimes they have loads of books in the back, going for a walk, like we said. And I really, really want one of the takeaways to be that fitness can really be created in any space. We don't need to have specific equipment for it. We can find odd objects to do that. When, we have to have strength in our everyday life. Our body needs to have some sort of muscle activity to support us in general, to hold our heads up, to, walk down the street, to carry our children.
Yeah.
To carry our grandchildren. I know that, like, for a couple of my clients, they're like, I want to be able to play with my grandkids. I want to be able to get up and down the stairs. I want to be able to wipe my own butt.
Yeah. Real.
That's real. That's a real thing, right? And so that is a big takeaway that I hope that people will understand. And I hope that maybe we can invoke some sort of change where we can start to really make fitness more readily available to the community. That's something that I don't know how. Like, I don't know how that can go about.
But it needs to be done.
But it needs to be done. We need to make it very accessible, because these gym memberships, like, while they're great and, not everybody can afford them. And we can argue till the day is long of, like, people can cut X, Y, Z out to afford, a particular membership. And while that might be the case, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what they want to do. Right. And if I'm being brutally honest, nobody ever really enjoys working out. Yeah. Like, I've never had anybody in my entire life say, I really enjoy exercising. They do it because there's a benefit to it, an unseen benefit at times, and a seen benefit. So understanding that, but then also getting people to understand that your health and your fitness is an investment as opposed to a quick fix. And we are in our society is such an instant gratification society that it's very hard for us to wrap our minds around a concept that is going to take us possibly months to years to see or experience positive change, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something that I think needs to be very much talked about, right? Is that you didn't put on 20 pounds or 30 pounds in a week. That happened over time, right? If that is the goal of someone to lose weight, then that is important to acknowledge and to say that there were things that took effect that built this up over time. So there are action steps that need to happen to take, to remove that, right? To get back to a, whatever the goal is. Same thing with like strength. We're not just immediately strong, the day we're born. We don't deadlift 500 pounds on day one, right? We take the action steps to build with the building blocks to learn how to do that and then gain that strength. So I think that those are just kind of a couple of takeaways, is that, health and fitness isn't an instant gratification.
Right.
It's not an instant fix, right? It's a journey. And it's a journey that's worth taking, which I think that people don't necessarily, think about too. But at the same time, health and fitness is a basic human right. It's not a privilege. It should not be for just the privileged. It is a basic human right. As human beings, we should be able to have that, to be able to just live our lives in, healthy and with strength, but also safely.
That part.
Yeah.
That part.
That part.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this.
I'm glad that we did this. For those, sorry, I'm picturing what happened before we started. It's just funny to me.
Man.
For those that are listening or even watching that want to learn more about you, follow you, connect with you, where can they find you?
I am most active on Instagram. So medi.paulus on IG, or you can find me at the Maternal Fitness Coach on IG. So the.maternal fitness coach at IG. That's where I'm most active.
Perfect. And if you're local, they'll see you November 17th.
Yes.
At Mainframe Studios. So head over to mycity.health, get your tickets, and we will see you, presented by Unity Point. I got to say that.
Yes.
Presented by Unity Point Health. Shout out to Unity Point. Appreciate you.
Yes, absolutely.
Everyone, thank you for listening to the Healthy Project podcast. I'll holler at you next time.
Thank you.